Right up in the very northwest corner of the Kimberley is a spot at the top of the Dampier Peninsula called Cape Leveque. And this is home to a resort named Kooljaman. And this is the perfect place to base yourself to explore what's one of my favorite parts of the entire Kimberley. Up here, the colors really come alive. You get those pink and reds running straight down into the ocean here. This really is the Kimberley of the imagination. Now there's heaps to do here. You can four-wheel drive, you can fish off the banks of the Hunter River if you go out on one of the tours with the Aboriginal guys that own this place, or you can get right out into the ocean there and do some reef fishing in one of the richest waters on the planet. That's where I'm about to head right now.
Kooljaman is situated at the edge of the earth on Cape Leveque. One of the many tours you can take here is a reef fishing trip that leaves the beach and heads out to Jonas Shoal. Even though we're inside of land, the water here is richer than anywhere back east.
This is the laziest kind of fishing you can do. Just drop it off the side of the boat. Let it get on the bottom. And wait for dinner. Something little, maybe a cod, or no, striped. Oh, good little. They call these guys blue line emperors. You can tell a little, if he sits still enough, there's a little blue line just in front of his eye there. And of course, we're reef fishing here, so there's probably some other emperor down there as well, if we're really lucky. But yeah, really nice eating fish, but probably a little small for today.
Bottom bashing in the Kimberley always pays off, but sometimes you have to get through the little guys first.
Oh, go. Now this guy's a little Spanish flag. Beautiful colors on them. Now, you can eat these guys. This guy's not long enough. They've got to be about 30 centimeters long. We used to use these guys for bait back in the old days, but these days pretty much considered to be a table fish, and so there's limits on them and how the times have changed.
This far from civilization, the water is beyond pristine, and it glows under the noon sun as we ply the barely hidden reef.
Feels like a boot's coming up here, which usually means it's a cod, and it's a cod. One of the best eating fish that you can catch out here when they're big enough. Not like this guy.
Our guide for the day was a bloke named Colin, who, like anyone else who was blown into the Kimberley, has fallen in love with the place.
Colin, how long have you been doing these tours up here at Kooljaman?
5 years.
5 years? So you know all the spots, hey?
I know a few of them, yeah.
What's your favourite species to target up here?
Generally Spanish mackerel. Gives a good fight.
Yeah, you get a few of those out here, eh?
We pick them up from time to time, yeah.
That is a beautiful fish to fight, isn't it?
Yeah, yep.
And to eat?
Good to eat.
So if people come out here fishing, what are they going to get? What's really prevalent out here?
The blue line emperor is the common one. We've had trips where we've caught 100 of them. Not all legal size, but they're there. There are a few other different emperors, a long-nosed emperor, red spot emperor, spangleds, occasionally red emperors.
Yep.
Then you've got the trout, blue bone, stripies. We can chase mackerel, we can chase the tuna. The sharks are everywhere, plenty of them. And we also get sailfish.
Yeah, awesome. Colin, thanks for having us, man. I reckon this is one of the most beautiful parts of the world, and you definitely have one of the best jobs in the world.
That's what they keep telling me, yeah.
And just when it seemed like I might keep pulling up baby fish, I finally had a big jerk on the other end of the line.
We've got a bit of weight now. Is that what I think it is? It is? Oh. You beauty. That's what we want, isn't it? That is a lovely coral trout. Look at this guy. Yeah! Oh man. You know that moment when you've been pulling in a million little ones, and then bam! What a lovely fish. These guys, such a nice shaped head, and those colors, eh?
Everyone knows that fishing, like life, comes with zero guarantees. But out here, under the Kimberley sun, you can come about as close as possible to guaranteed good fishing every once in a while. Fortune smiles on the adventurous, right? And my good fortune usually involves a good day out on the water and one of those sunsets that I'm scrambling to try to capture, even though I never really truly will. But that's the nature of the search, I guess. Knowing you might fail, and going anyway. I think one of my favorite things about being on the road is the circular, never-ending feeling. The way days bleed into one another out here, and your only anchors against the shifting horizon are your swag, your billy, and your four-wheel drive. Waking up in the shade of the grass huts that overlook the Indian Ocean at Kooljaman definitely makes some days stand out though. But today, I had a new adventure lined up with an old friend. There was a lot more to Kooljaman than just the resort. This coastline holds a million secrets. And there is no human better qualified to show me around the Cape Leveque backcountry than the local expert here, Brian Lee. I've been four-wheel driving, fishing, and crabbing with Brian a few times, and he has never failed to teach me a thing or two about bush survival. So from the resort, we headed east up the beach between billows of blood-red sand and the crisp cerulean sea, past jagged edges of reef and sand so white it blinds you no matter where you look. We were headed for Hunter Creek, a vast alluvial mudflat that draws in a myriad of life with the tide. What if this is what the Garden of Eden really looked like?
Brian, thanks for having us. This is a beautiful country here. You're pretty lucky to call this place home.
Yeah, well, this is my office most days. I'm out here almost every day.
Mate, coming out here, this place is alive with life. You see so many creatures in the water. As soon as you pull up, there's turtles and rays and everything else. What do you find out here if someone would come out on the tour? What are they going to see?
Well, sometimes, well, most times turtles. We do catch a few fish. Sometimes you see the occasional crocodiles. Sometimes up close, sometimes at a distance. Yeah, the bird life here is it's all pretty interesting as well.
If you are fishing up here, what are the target species here?
Well, down along here, we'll be looking at mangrove jacks, hopefully the odd trevally as well, but yeah, there's a few mangrove jacks down.
So you're Barty people up here?
Yeah, we're Barty people. We occupy a land from just north of Beagle Bay, all the way up to One Arm Point, and immediately around the islands, immediately around One Arm Point.
For me, this country really is, if you have a four-wheel drive, this is why you have it. And if you don't have one, this is why you buy one.
Yeah. Or you can't get out here in a two-wheel drive vehicle. And I think a lot of people who are not used to four-wheel driving, it's an easy introduction to four-wheel driving.
That's pretty good. So if people come up here, they're going to learn something no matter what.
Yeah, they always learn something. You know, we get them bogged and teach them how to get out of bogs.
One thing I love about Brian Lee is how he still gets his hands dirty out here. He's still completely in love with the land. This turquoise water, filtered through white Kimberley sand, is the perfect hunting ground for fish that come in with the tide to feed in the shadow of the mangroves. Of course, that means it is also salty country. Big snappy handbags are no doubt in here too. Just keep your eyes peeled, Brian says. All this seawater has just washed in and filled the creek, created a landscape in hours, painted a thick aquamarine smear across the dunes. Beneath the surface, working a rock ledge in water almost as clear as air, you're looking for movement. You have to be quick. And in an instant, the metallic ring of the spear letting loose, and the electric quiver of a fish on the end. This one's a little gold-lined rabbit fish. Not quite the jack I was hoping for, but it'll make a good quick meal on a fire in the dunes. Immersion in the landscape. That's what I'm always going for. That's what I'm trying to capture in my heart and in my lens. That feeling where there no longer seems to be a boundary between in here and out there. We twisted and weaved our way through an ancient landscape, one that feels older still when you think about how long human feet have tread on these same stones. An unbroken chain stretching back 50 millennia. We were headed out to the northeast tip of Cape Leveque, to a place called Swamp Point, to watch the tide drain back out into the ocean. Everything about this landscape is humbling. You constantly experience Alice in Wonderland syndrome, like you're much smaller than you actually are. You can feel how tenuous the grip that life has here, against the elements, against itself. But it's that dance that makes Mother Nature so brutally exquisite, so exquisitely brutal. Humpback whales course through the shallows half a kilometre off the cliff face, running against the tide to make deep water before they get caught in the unforgiving rapids over the reef. As the tide picks up momentum, the humpbacks swim as hard as they can against its pull, making the run between the mainland and Swan Island. A calf gets separated from the pod, and we watch, as helplessly as the rest of the creatures, as it begins to lag, and fight, and slowly gets sucked toward the maelstrom over the reef. Then we watch it roll in slow motion over the shallow, jagged reef into the rapids, and we hoped, back out to sea. It is a stark reminder of how intense, how unforgiving Kimberley tides can be. Blood red sand running down into an ocean the color of a dream. The horizon here seems hazy, indistinct, even in noonday glare, and the landscape changes from minute to minute. Blood gives way to the purity of driven snow, the ocean hiding so much life just below the surface. If there's one thing, one experience, one takeaway from the Kimberley, I'd say it is nothing less than to always expect the unexpected.
Oh, come on.
And like that, I've managed to sink my front tires in this sand, as fine as baker's sugar, as vicious as mud.
Just tried to make it over this little rise here. It's got a bit of a twist in it, so I've gotten bottomed out here. So the easy thing is just to snatch out of here, and luckily Brian's in front of me. So I'm just gonna grab a snatch strap and see if we can give it a little gentle tug. One thing they don't necessarily tell you at the dealership is that most cars don't come with rated recovery points. You need to add your own. I've got some AirB ones here, and they basically transfer all this force straight onto the chassis of the vehicle. It's a safe way to do it. You also want to use rated shackles and rated snatch straps. These guys are built to take the forces that we're about to put on them. Once you got that tightened up, you want to loosen it just a touch, otherwise it can jam up under the force.
And just to be extra sure, I threw a couple of max tracks under the front wheels, so they have a bit more flotation when that snatch goes taut. Sometimes though, the devil gets into the best laid plans.
We're gonna go for plan B here, which is basically to set up a bridle on the back of Brian's truck and just winch myself up the hill. It's a slower process, but it's pretty much guaranteed to get me out of this stuff. This is perfect when the snatch just isn't quite gonna do the job. He's trying to pull on soft sand and just not really getting the momentum there, so this will do the trick.
I've been testing out the new Revo winch from Bush Ranger. It can pull 10 ton on synthetic rope, and more than once now, it's got me out of a jam. Even on synthetic rope, winching is still sketchy business, but I reckon for some recoveries, it's still the safest way to go, and it works.
And that is how you do it. It's a little bit messy, had to try a couple times, but if you've got the right tools, you'll always get out with a little help from your friends.
The light out here is disarming. It is as if a vapor descends upon the land, draping everything in an unseen color that lifts your spirits as it intensifies every shade under the sky before muting them in a final blue halo. We made for the shade of a ragged old fruit tree in the dunes where Brian keeps his bush kitchen. Here, we make a quick fire out of driftwood from the bay nearby.
Brian, you guys have the life up here. Just tooting around all day, catching fish, cooking them up on the beach. It's a beautiful country you've got here, mate.
It's a great spot here. My mother's country, grandmother's father's country. Yeah, beautiful spot.
It really provides out here. You know, you can tell that you guys have looked after the place. That it's still wild. There's so much life in the water here. And you can walk out here, if you got the knowledge, get yourself a feed any day of the week.
Yeah, it's you got seafood here more or less at your fingertip, you know, everywhere around. Most of it is tide dependent, but yeah, you can get a feed anytime out here.
That's beautiful country. If you guys want to come up to pretty much anywhere in Australia and have the time of your life, go out for an adventure or just relax for as long as you want. Tip of Cape Leveque, Kooljaman here, it is perfect for anything. They've got a restaurant back in camp, if that's your style, or you can sit out here, the million-star restaurant, and eat like kings.
And out here, the only booking you need is time. The only thing on the menu, adventure.
The Kimberley is a place of bloodlines. It's a country that takes as much as it gives. But that's kind of what it's about up here. This is an old country. It's a country that's balanced. Everything out here works together, from the ecology to the people. And you begin to get a sense of that. It gets into your bones after a while. You're gonna have to bleed a little bit here if you want those perfect sunsets, if you want to catch that fish that you've been dreaming about. And you begin to understand that on a tangible level. And you put that work in, you bleed a little bit into the ground, you make it that night to the best sunset you've ever seen in your life. Out on the water, you're chasing fish. You can go all day without catching a single thing, but if you put in the blood, sweat, and tears, you'll catch that trout or that jack or that barra that you've been dreaming about your whole life. This is a country that seriously asks quarter and takes quarter. And if you play the game, if you come out here prepared to take a few scars, you're gonna go home with some memories that'll last forever. And that, I think, is what makes this place so awesome. It's what makes it so powerful, is how balanced it is and the lessons that it can give you to take away. You want to pull them up? Cool. Little baby coral trout. Scratch that. I swear it was a coral trout. It was like that big. You know, you can see them sometimes 20 feet deep. And I'm snagged. Once you tighten that right up, you want to loosen it off a half a turn. Otherwise, that snackle